Hey everybody, it's Dr. Eric Balkowitz. We're back for another edition of Thyroid Thursday. And today we're talking about the connection between gut and developing thyroid issues, whether it can cause you to develop hypothyroidism, immune-driven damage like thyroiditis or Hashimoto's, and can it have an impact on the conversion of T4 to T3 and why you might be struggling with low T3 physiology. So some of the questions that came in following the podcast: how does gut health affect thyroid? Is gut health related to hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, thyroiditis? Can gut bacteria impact thyroid levels? And is there a connection between what's going on with the gut and what's going on with thyroid physiology? Just a bunch of questions that came in, so we're going to answer them all today in this episode of Thyroid Thursday. So, can gut issues impact the circulating level of T3? Can it impact the immune system, which can then cause damage to the thyroid gland and produce glandular hypothyroidism? And the answer to both of these is the gut can cause both cellular hypothyroidism, reduce conversion of T4 to T3, reduce circulating T3 levels, and it can create thyroiditis, primary hypothyroidism, and even Graves' disease. So if you're one of those people, for sure, who's walking around like my T3 is always low and you have hypothyroid signs and symptoms, and you have gut signs and symptoms, gas, bloating, pressure, constipation, loose stools, you got to get your GI tract looked at. But let's get into this. So if you have a healthy gut contributes, it's estimated to about 20% of the circulating T3 that's in the bloodstream. What goes on in the gut contributes about 20% to that. And it does it by bacteria converting kind of deactivated forms of T3 back into T3. And by bacteria, by gobbling up fibers from your food, soluble and insoluble fibers, converting them into short-chain fatty acids. And then as those short-chain fatty acids impact the intestinal cells, they lead to an increase in deiodinase 2, and that's the enzyme that converts T4 to T3. So these are the two primary mechanisms by which the healthy gut physiology can contribute to higher levels of circulating T3. We'll talk about how problems in the gut can impact the immune system, the gland itself, but this is how it contributes to T3. The other big thing is you have to have a healthy gut and a good balance of the bacteria in the gut to be able to break down the foods you eat, so we can extract the nutrients from those foods, calories, nutrients, micronutrients from those foods. And a lot of those things are critical to thyroid function and thyroid physiology: iodine, iron, selenium, magnesium, tyrosine. Lots of these things that these micronutrients that are in food require healthy levels of stomach acid, enzymes to break them down, and healthy bacteria, all part of the big picture to get these nutrients from our food. So this is what happens when you have a healthy gut and GI tract. And the immune system is well controlled. We typically don't have big immune inflammatory issues going on if we have healthy gut function. But when we have gut dysfunction, we wind up with malabsorption, less T3 in circulation, inflammation in the gut, and oftentimes systemically, and the activation of the immune system. So how can this GI dysfunction impact circulating levels of thyroid hormone and potentially trigger thyroiditis and glandular hypothyroidism? When there's dysfunction in the gut, we often see an elevation of inflammation in the gut and potentially systemically. The inflammation itself will reduce the enzyme deiodinase 2, upregulate the enzyme deiodinase 3, and will have a decreased level of circulating T3 because of dysfunction in the gut and because of the inflammatory process. Inflammation can increase the conversion of T4 to T3 at the HP axis, and that can cause TSH to drop. And as TSH drops, now the gland's making less T4, and if there's less T4 and less T3 being made by the gland, there's less T4 to convert to T3. Plus we have the inflammatory mechanism going on, you're going to have lower T3. If we have GI dysfunction, the GI immune system becomes activated. we start ramping up the immune response. Typically, the inflammatory molecules ramp up, the inflammatory T cells ramp up, and the T regulatory cells that calm the whole process down get down regulated. Now, when there's bacterial imbalance, these T regs can be down regulated as well because the short chain fatty acids help regulate the T regulatory system. So we get down regulation of T regs, we get increase of T cell, more T cell activation, more inflammation. We also can get a drop in oral tolerance. If we get increase in T cell activation, we're at a risk of developing, more likely to develop thyroiditis. If we reduce oral tolerance to foods coming in, then the immune system can start reacting to our foods, and that too puts us at greater risk for developing thyroiditis. The dysbiosis, the imbalance in the gut bacteria, can decrease T3 because we lose this effect. And the decreased, if we have dysbiosis, we can lose the short chain fatty acid production, which I was mentioning. That results in lower circulating T3. It results in decreased T regulatory cell control. So we get runaway inflammatory T cells activating, increase the risk of thyroiditis. And with decreased short chain fatty acid, we get a drop in function of the tight junctions in the intestinal cells. This can lead to increased intestinal permeability. This can cause increased immune activation and inflammation, and the inflammation decreases T4 to T3 conversion, plus we become more at risk for developing thyroiditis and glandular hypothyroidism. So these are just some of the ways that gut function can create changes in thyroid physiology, both at the gland itself and with the amount in circulation, and especially how much T4, the less active hormone, gets converted into active T3. So many people, tired, don't feel good, don't feel well, get their TSH done. TSH is normal, but they don't feel good. It's because their T3 levels are lower in circulation on a more consistent basis. That's not broken physiology. I know other functional practitioners, integrated practitioners will tell you that you've lost the ability to convert T4 to T3. It's usually not your body forgot how to do it. It's usually an adaptive response to some type of immune inflammatory process. If the body is sensing danger, there's bacterial overgrowth, there's problems in the gut, it's going to decrease the amount of T4 to T3 conversion to slow down the metabolism and deal with the threat, okay? It's not typically broken physiology. So, but we see this low circulating T3 in functional medicine. Lots of people decide that the thing to do here is give T3. And if you give T3, you'll make the person feel better and you'll potentially raise their levels. And that's true, at least temporarily. And look, if you're on T3 medication and you feel awesome, that's fantastic. But I'm more talking to the people who get on T3 medication because they have this scenario going on. Their T3 is low. Their doctor says, you forgot how to convert T4 to T3. Your cells can't do it anymore. We're going to give you T3. You get that first hit of T3 and you feel a little bit better, but then it doesn't last. So then you need more T3 and more T3. And then that throws off TSH even worse. That suppresses the gland even more. And now you need more T3 and you need more T4. And so it creates an initial problem. It's like painting a moldy wall. And if I paint the moldy wall, it looks better, but the mold's coming back tomorrow. So the solution isn't just to give you a can of paint and a paintbrush and have you paint your moldy wall every day. The issue is to deal with the moisture that's allowing the mold to grow. If you have reduced conversion of T4 to T3 and you've got gut issues, you don't need T3, you need to address your gut issues, okay? So is there a potential risk to adding T3 to this picture? And there is, because if you have dysbiosis and you have dysfunction going on in the GI tract, and there's more inflammation, that reduced conversion of T4 to T3 is an adaptive response. It's not broken. So now we also have immune activation going on here. If you add more T3 to this picture, you may actually make the autoimmune condition worse. You ramp up the TH1 and TH17, which are the pro-inflammatory sides of the immune system, and that could actually activate or aggravate your thyroiditis. Everybody's a little bit different, but this stuff's all based on science. So if you have any questions, reach out to me wherever you're watching the video, and if you need help, DM me discovery and we'll send you a link to schedule a complimentary discovery call.